For 6 years, the cleaner hid her identity as an engineer until they challenged her in front of everyone. Don't forget to comment what country you're watching from. Sometimes, life forces you to hide who you are just to survive. That's what Mariana did. For years, she had worked as an engineer at a prestigious tech company where the environment was cold, competitive, and rife with gender discrimination. Even though she was more qualified than many of her colleagues, her ideas were constantly ignored, stolen, or dismissed. The daily struggle for recognition eventually wore her down until one day, she simply had enough. She quit without telling anyone what she would do next. That's how she ended up at her new job, not as an engineer, but as a cleaner in an industrial manufacturing company. She just needed to get away, to breathe, to feel invisible for a while. What she didn't imagine was that she would relive the same hell there, just with new faces. As soon as she stepped into the hallways in her blue uniform, the mocking looks began. The young, self-assured engineers either ignored her completely or, worse, made sarcastic comments when they saw her near the machinery. "Careful, don't go unplugging something with your mop," one would say. Another would joke mockingly, "Look, there goes our janitorial engineer." Mariana would clench her teeth and keep cleaning, trying to hide the tremor in her hands. The most painful part wasn't the scorn from those men, but the insecurities they awakened in her. A part of her believed them. A part of her felt that maybe she had never been good enough. That maybe the problem wasn't them, but her. But there was something they couldn't take from her: her experience. Her knowledge was still there, buried beneath every rag and every glove. Even as she pretended to be just a cleaner, her mind was still analyzing every machine and every technical error she overheard. One morning, while cleaning near one of the labs, she heard an argument between several engineers. Something was wrong with one of the calibration systems. They were blaming each other, frustrated because they couldn't find the problem. Mariana unintentionally muttered an almost inaudible sentence. "It's the return valve. If it's turned to the left, it creates a vacuum in the system." Everyone fell silent. One of the engineers, laughing, said aloud, "And how would you know that? Did you see it on TikTok?" The laughter erupted immediately. Another, even more arrogant, added, "Look, if you're so smart, why don't you fix it yourself?" Mariana stood up slowly, took off her cleaning gloves, and without a word, knelt in front of the machine. In a matter of seconds, she made an adjustment with surgical precision. The system started working again instantly. The engineers were speechless. The silence was so thick you could feel it in the air. One of them tried to cover it up with a nervous laugh, but no one joined in. The team leader, red with embarrassment, crossed his arms and snapped, "That was just luck. I want to see you solve the real problem, the one with the main unit. Then we'll see if you know as much as you pretend to." Mariana looked him in the eyes for the first time and nodded without fear. "Perfect. Show me the machine," she said, with a calmness that contrasted with the tense faces around her. Just then, the atmosphere grew even more tense. The CEO of the company appeared in the room. Everyone immediately stood at attention. The man, in a dark suit and with a serious face, stood watching without a word. He just crossed his arms and waited. The main unit had been failing for weeks, with efficiency issues and excessive energy consumption. No one had been able to solve it. It was a puzzle that had stumped even the most senior veterans. The engineers, certain she would be humiliated, handed her the technical report with a sarcastic smile. "Here you go, engineer. Good luck." Mariana didn't reply. She sat down at the workbench and began to read as the murmurs and laughter started up again behind her. "She'll give up in 5 minutes," said one. "Or she'll break something and get us all in trouble," added another. But the CEO said nothing, just watched without moving an inch. Mariana knew this was the decisive moment. What she did here wouldn't just define her future, it would also unearth everything she had kept silent for 6 years. As she analyzed the electrical schematic, her hands trembled not from fear of failure, but from the emotional weight she had carried for so long. Every look of contempt, every taunt, every time they had made her feel like less, it all came rushing back with full force. But then, in a moment of clarity, all clicked into place. She saw the root of the problem. It wasn't just one thing, but a chain of misdiagnosed errors. Mariana stood up, walked to the control console, and began making adjustments. The engineer started to draw closer, first with curiosity, then with nervousness. No one dared to stop her, not even her direct supervisor. "What is she doing?" one muttered. "She shouldn't be touching that," said another. But it was too late. The diagnostic lights began to flash. Consumption dropped, efficiency rose, and the alarms went silent one by one. And then, just as everything seemed to be stabilizing, the head engineer shouted, "Get away from there. You're not authorized to do that. You could destroy the system." Mariana turned her head slowly, looked at him calmly, and replied firmly, "And you? How many weeks have you been unable to solve it?" Silence once again took over the room. Everyone was looking at her, but now with a mixture of fear and respect. The CEO, for the first time, took a step forward. Still without speaking, he observed the results on the screen. The numbers didn't lie. Efficiency was up by 27%. The system was more stable than ever. No one dared to celebrate yet. If you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment what you think of it. And it was then, just when they thought nothing else could surprise them, that Mariana stood up, took a folder from her bag, and handed it directly to the CEO. He opened it in silence. Inside was her complete resume: mechanical engineer with honors, certifications in industrial efficiency optimization projects in 3 different countries. The CEO looked at her with narrowed eyes while the rest of the team swallowed hard. Some were pale, others couldn't even meet her gaze. But Mariana said nothing. She just waited. And although the air in the room had grown heavy, the hardest part was yet to come. The CEO closed the folder slowly. His expression was unreadable, but his eyes darted between the document and the engineers around him as if he were connecting the dots. No one said anything. The engineers who had been mocking her minutes before now looked like statues. The head of engineering, sweating coldly, tried to regain some control. "Sir, we can't make decisions based on a simple demonstration. We don't know if what she did is replicable. Besides, she bypassed safety protocols, and that could be considered a serious offense." His voice trembled, but he tried to sound firm. The CEO looked at him for a few seconds, then turned to Mariana. "Can you explain to me, step by step, what you did?" he asked in a neutral tone. Mariana nodded without hesitation. Her explanation was clear, technical, and precise. You could hear her years of mastery in every word, but still, the atmosphere remained tense. Something felt wrong. It was then that Rodrigo, one of the youngest engineers, broke the silence. "Sir, with all due respect, she was right from the beginning." His voice trembled slightly. "I was reviewing the data in parallel as she spoke, and the improvement is completely consistent with her analysis." Everyone looked at him. His intervention was not welcome. The head of engineering shot him a death glare, but Rodrigo didn't back down. "What Mariana did wasn't luck, it was knowledge, and none of us saw it before." "Why?" "Well, because we didn't believe a cleaning lady could know more than us." The CEO watched him for a few seconds, and then looked at the rest of the team. "Does anyone else want to speak?" No one answered. Only the sound of the fans filled the silence. Mariana remained firm, standing tall, looking straight ahead, but inside, something was beginning to break, not out of fear, but from the weight of years of injustice that was now crashing down on her shoulders like an avalanche. Suddenly, the head of engineering spoke again, but this time with a more aggressive attitude. "This is a circus. Are we now going to let some frustrated ex-employee come in here and give us lessons? We don't know if she was fired from her old job for incompetence. We have no references, only her word and a piece of paper anyone could forge. This is ridiculous." His voice grew louder with each sentence. "Besides, she's not part of the technical team. She didn't go through our screening or our training. We don't even know if she meets the safety standards." Several employees shifted uncomfortably. Some looked down, but others were beginning to look uneasy with his tone. Mariana clenched her fists. She had felt this humiliation before, but now it was different. This time, she had the truth on her side. But just as it seemed, everything was about to explode. The CEO raised his hand, demanding silence. "That's enough," he said in a low but firm voice. His gaze fell upon the head of engineering. "You just questioned someone who demonstrated in minutes what your team couldn't solve in weeks. She's not the one on trial here. You are." The head engineer tried to protest, but the CEO raised his voice. "Silence. I'm tired of this culture of arrogance. This is not the first time I've received reports about elitist attitudes on this team." Mariana not only identified and solved the problem, but she also explained it with sound reasoning. "And you talked to her about screenings and standards? Where were those standards when you couldn't get a machine working for almost a month?" The atmosphere grew even more tense. The head of engineering took a step back, silenced. Mariana said nothing. Her gaze remained fixed. She no longer needed to defend herself. The masks were starting to fall off on their own. The CEO walked over to Mariana and, in front of everyone, said, "Would you like to work with us? But this time in the position you truly deserve." The room fell completely silent. Some employees' eyes widened in astonishment. Others, like Rodrigo, smiled discreetly. Mariana took a deep breath, as if she had been waiting for this moment for years. But her answer was deliberate, without euphoria or resentment. "What I want most is to work in a place where I don't have to hide who I am, to be treated with respect. If that's possible here, then yes, I accept." The CEO nodded with a slight smile. "I'll make it possible." And that sentence, spoken quietly, resonated with more force than any shout before it. For the first time, Mariana felt that her voice was no longer alone. The following days were an earthquake within the company. The head of engineering was removed from his position and put under an internal investigation for multiple complaints of discrimination. Some engineers apologized publicly, though Mariana wasn't seeking revenge, only justice. Rodrigo was promoted to project lead, partly for his courage in speaking up when no one else would. And Mariana received her own workspace, a modest but dignified office, where she once again shone as an engineer. This time, without having to hide her identity beneath someone else's uniform, her story began to circulate through the company, and gradually, outside of it. Many called her the cleaning engineer, but she preferred to be called by her name. One day, as she was leaving the company, a young intern approached her shyly. "Mariana, thank you. You made me realize I don't need to fit into what others expect of me to prove my worth." She smiled, and for the first time in a long while, she felt her battle had served a purpose greater than herself. Because what Mariana did wasn't just reclaim her place, it was to open a path so that others, invisible as she once was, could walk it without having to wear a disguise. Respect isn't demanded with shouts. It's earned with integrity and defended with courage. Mariana's story became a quiet legend at the company. There were no banners, no statues, no public tributes. But every time someone underestimated a worker because of their appearance or position, someone would whisper, "Careful, it might be another Mariana." And that was enough to command silence. Because when the truth comes to light, no uniform or prejudice can hide it. Behind every mask, the truth inevitably emerges.